Hello, everybody. Welcome to the RSN Wrestling Podcast. This is, of course, the RSN Wrestling Podcast. This is the mastermind, Sal. On the other line, we got Rich, the big guy.
What's up, guys?
And also on the other line, we got the owner of Pro Wrestling Opinion, PWO, three letters, PWO. It's not any Nick Lopez. It's the one and only, the Nick Lopez.
Can I do it?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Can I do the song?
Do it.
I'm sure there's a lot
Nick,
of
Nick Lopez. Nick Lopez. Nick Lopez.
Hey.
Nick Lopez.
Hey, PWO.
It's still a pretty
Yep.
common name. I tend to Google search myself every third Tuesday of the month, but I'm the only Nicholas Jason Lopez, so I got that going for me. But
Yep.
I digress. So we're here for another fun topic.
Yep. Well, before we go into that, I mean, could you just tell us, for those people that don't know what PWO, and if you don't know what PWO is right now, you're living under a rock. You're living under a big rock, because we put out a promo video. We talked about it extensively all over the time, everywhere. So, Nick, I need you to educate these people about what PWO is.
Before he gets into that, if you don't know what PWO is, you're basically a Roman Reigns fan.
Basically, or even
I said it.
Yep.
We don't talk about Reigns fans.
Yep, that's right.
They're
and PWO.
They're scum of the earth.
Scum of the earth.
Ooh, that's
but
harsh words.
Let me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but explain to us. What is PWO?
I'm getting to that, Mr. Mastermind. PWO is the brainchild of me. Launched it actually almost 3 years ago today, January 3rd. Kind of just wanted to see what it was like to watch wrestling every single show on a national circuit, and maybe one or two independent shows. Just write my thoughts, get it out there, do reviews on pay-per-views, and then we had our own podcast, so I mixed it all together, threw in some salt, some pepper, and basically, you had the site. Kept going, I kept adding more companies, and now we even do West Coast Wrestling Connection, New Japan Pro Wrestling. You could even throw in an NXT or an ROH or a TNA or a GFW or I even have some old school stuff on there. I have some old WCW 90s pay-per-view reviews. It's a ball. Check it out. You'll enjoy it.
Yep, and you said it was PWO, ProWrestlingOpinion.com. You can check that out right there. But nonetheless,
Opinion.com. Get out from under the rock.
That's right. Get out from under the rock.
Don't get out. If you're living in New York City, don't get out. There's a lot of snow all over the place. It's like 5 degrees. You won't enjoy it. Wait a week, then you could get out of the rock. But please find some kind of iOS device. Find an Android. Get to a computer. Check it out. PWO.com.
And that's the best thing. It's easy to access. So there you go.
While you're at it, check out the RSN podcast. Tell your sister, your brother, your mother, your father, aunt, uncle, neighbor, milkman down the block, the guy at the corner store. Show some love to both sites.
The popcorn dude.
That's right.
Yeah, him too.
Also,
even the hot dog guy on the corner, or the halal guy.
Definitely. Hands down. But I mean, the old lady. Of course, the old lady. We always got to. The old cat lady down the street. Of course, we have to. Yeah, have to show some love. But nonetheless, as Nick said, I mean, as Nick and both Rich were talking about on PW, also we have our episodes there on of our previous episodes, Women of Wrestling, Rise and Fall WCW, Rise and Fall ECW, etc., etc. You can check it out there. But today, specifically, this is the first podcast that we're talking about a topic in 2018. So today we're talking about something very interesting. We're talking about managers, legendary managers from before, past, present, future, and now. Before we go into that, I mean, let me just ask you guys, when you think of manager, what comes to your head?
Miss Elizabeth.
What names? I mean, what makes a manager? What makes a manager? Let me ask you that.
It's funny that he brings up Elizabeth because, I wouldn't think of Elizabeth as a manager per se. She was just kind of like a valet with some attitude. But I guess when you do think about it, managers are kind of valets with attitude. But I automatically would just associate that with like let's say you have a really good let's say you have a really good talent, but they don't really quite have the means to get over on their own, at least maybe promo wise. That's where you can utilize a wrestling manager. When you have stables, managers come in handy. Sometimes they're like the leaders of the whole group. It's a really cool thing to have in your arsenal, at least in the pro wrestling world. I would automatically think of like guys like Jimmy Mouth of the South Heart. They always had something, like a prop. He had the megaphone. Jim Cornette had the tennis racket. The Jackal had those weird sunglasses. They always had some kind of thing that makes you think of them, and in turn makes you think of their talent, of their protege, point, set, match, the right partnership really brings an act pretty much to the main event almost. But when done really badly, it could also derail a push, and I'm sure there's tons of examples of that, but they'll all be in the near future to come.
But then you also have the Paul Heymans, who is just a mouthpiece, basically. Then you have the female managers, as Nick was saying, like the valets. But there are some that are more than just valets. But Nick, I have a question for you, though. Okay?
Yeah.
Do you like the managers who actually get into the matches, like interfere and actually perform with the wrestlers?
Throw me an example.
Like you're basically saying someone that's an accessory that.
All right. Well, I know you're kind of behind on up to date, but you probably heard Chris. Remember Chris Masters, correct?
Yeah.
He is technically a manager for Eli Drake right now. I know I'm kind of spoiling a little bit for you, but he kind of gets
that they're kind of similar in physique build. Oh God, their promos are probably. Oh God, I can't even imagine already.
It's not good, but Chris basically gets into matches and tries to interfere for Eli. That's what I'm saying. Like manager try and interfere, and he actually performs.
It works. I mean, it works for heel managers. I suppose that they're the only ones that really do the interfering. If you guys ever watch West Coast Wrestling Connection, I love the product. It's a really good product. Gangrel's on there. They got some really up and coming talents. They got like
wow, Gangrel. That's a name drop.
Ethan HD. He actually wrestles over in Great Khali's wrestling school.
I think it's called CW. I think.
Yeah,
CW. Continental Wrestling, I think, Entertainment, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the company itself actually has a handful of like managers with their talent. My only gripe is sometimes they tend to interfere in the matches way too much. So there's a lot of overbooking. So done in the right moments in the right places, I'm for it. I'm all for it as long as it keeps you focused on the match or it progresses a feud. But
so you basically like it if it makes sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to overdo it, because then it kind of just puts a bad taste in everybody's mouth. So like I said, I'm all for it, but don't do it too much. In small doses, it works.
That's right. So basically, like, so you guys would say that a manager is basically like a manager or valet would be someone that's like an accessory to the person's character or development.
Perfect example, Lana.
Yeah, classic. Basically,
Lana's perfect.
Yeah, she's like the I'd say
she was the mouth for Rusev.
Mm-hmm. The mouthpiece.
She interfered when she had to.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that's how you like the managers, Nick, right?
Yeah, I mean, but because it's funny because Lana's gone through several phases in her stint. I'll always like her as the original, just like straight up Russian mouthpiece for Rusev when he was like in his original Monster Push, and she had like those Sarah Palin, like suits. Like
and she came out in the actual suits, not like when she came out with Ziggler.
Oh God, let's not go there.
Oh man, yeah, I remember that. But I mean, that could be an example of basically where, I guess we talk about that as like an anchor to someone's character, or a tag team, or Valet, anybody. But basically, it's like an extension of the person's character. Like you see all the classics, Freddie Blassie with Andre the Giant. Whenever that was the case, it was always, Freddie Blassie would be that, he'd be the mouthpiece. Brother Love, of course. They're always the mouthpieces, but they always exude something out of the character. Like when you see the person over the years, you go, oh, okay, now, that's someone who identifies with that person, Or like a tag team. You see like people like,
Sonny.
Yeah, Sonny. Classic. When Sonny was managing, I think it was what was it?
The Body Gunners, the Goblins.
Mm-hmm. What was it? The Guns? The
Smoking Guns.
Smoking Guns. Yeah. She was, and that was basically the talk. Like the whole talk was
Road Warriors.
Yeah.
I feel like she British Bulldogs. I'm not 100% sure on that, but she appeared on a lot of 1990.
She might have.
What about Heart Foundation? Well, she didn't do Heart Foundation, did she?
No.
Well, backstage.
That came after her.
Oh, I see.
No, it was before her too. She was still in the company, but she was only doing like backstage segments at that time. Because that was when she had that little thing with Shawn Michaels.
Yep. Supposedly, I think the accusation was Bret Hart was cheating. I think with his wife or something like that, had an affair with Sonny or something like that, and then it was like a big deal, right?
But Sonny basically came out and said, "No, I was only sleeping with Shawn."
Yep, that's right. And then of course it was like the whole controversy. But I think if you look at the most classic one, Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth, classic example.
That was she was like, yeah, I give Maria Kanellis props.
Yep.
But I'm sorry to say, the actual first lady of professional wrestling is Miss Elizabeth.
Hands down, because that was like I think where it entered the period where you had someone that identified with it. There was no Macho Man Randy Savage without
Miss Elizabeth right there next to him.
Exactly. There is no, it has to be one or the other. It can't be one and then that's it. It's like for example when they had that with the Macho Man and with what's her name? Forgetting her name. Damn.
Sensational Sherry.
Sensational Sherry. Yeah. Sensational Sherry. When she was with Sensational Sherry, people said it didn't work. It didn't work out well, or they thought, okay, it was a change of character because he turned heel. But before, I mean, when we talk about managers, we talk about what a manager is. But let me ask you this: would you guys classify a manager as a babyface manager and a heel manager, or would you just say the manager is just there to just supplement the character? Whatever the character does, it'll roll along with it.
It varies. But I would usually say they're either faces or heels, and then depending on whatever client they pick up. Well, actually, it's funny because there's times where Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar, they're depending on who his opponent is, Lesnar's either the good guy or the bad guy. But like the dynamic of their relationship still doesn't change. But just based on whoever they're facing, it changes everything. Like when he used to face John Cena, like he was like the heel. I guess when he took on Samoa Joe, I guess he was essentially the face. So it flipped, and then you had like times where it was like Roman Reigns, where it's just kind of like tweener territory. So it really doesn't matter like if they're face or heel. I mean, as long as they're over, Lesnar and Heyman are always going to be over, so you don't have to really worry about the face-heel spectrum. They'll just cheer for whoever they want to cheer. But then you have other people like, for a long time it was like Natalya. She was with Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. They were always primarily a heel act, at least while they were together.
But what's funny is they always got face pop because they're so talented.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think it's also the fact that some of these managers, they're charismatic in themselves. Like you see, like many different characters over the years. Like for example, with Enzo, right? Enzo, he's had like, but Carmella was his manager, right, for one time, right? Or as a tag team with Enzo and Cass, she was the tag, she was the manager for both of them. There was some kind of charisma with that. It was like, all right, cool, and then later on, of course, certain characters have their own, like certain managers, they go down their own path. Like you see, for example, with let's go back to
Lana.
Lana. You can go back. Hell, I'd say even Santino Marella I'm sorry, Santino Marella and Beth Phoenix. Classic example. You see this kind of thing where it was an odd pairing.
I can do one better.
Yeah,
Eddie and China.
Definitely, that's another one too. Odd pairings, but you ended up seeing one star overshine, right?
I mean, I wouldn't really classify it as a manager. I'd just say that's more like a valet / partnership.
Like what about Essa Rios and Lita?
Yeah,
at first, or at least when Lita was associated with the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian at Rhino.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't really call them. It's funny though, because I wouldn't really call them managers per se.
Yep.
But then I guess they wouldn't. Not every manager needs to talk, and not every manager, needs to be the mouthpiece.
Right. I mean, well, we can say kind of like this. I mean, we could probably agree with this, right? If we break it down by eras, in the '80s, it was mostly like, I guess, that was a high thing. Good guy, bad guy. You see, Freddie Blassie with Iron Sheik, and Hulk Hogan, or Andre the Giant and Freddie Blassie. You see, Grandmaster. What his name was? The Grand Wizard of Wrestling. Bad guy, classic bad guy. Mr. Fuji, classic bad guy. Like it was like he threw like talcum powder in people's faces. But now it's like of course, I think that role has changed. Like where you see like in the Attitude Era, now it's totally changed. You have people like China, you have people like Lita. Now they're teaming up with different tag teams.
They actually got involved in the match. They actually took bombs.
And I think that's where it kind of shifted from where it was like manager valet to like now there's a totally different connotation to it. Now a manager can actually get involved. Now a manager can actually be there and physically be a part of it. Whereas back in the day where it was like, very limited. A manager really can't do nothing. And if you really look at it, most of the managers now compared to before, they were much more now I guess like you see back in the day where most of those managers ever fit to like be in competition and stuff. I wouldn't say, right? All these other managers are skinny, like 90, 100-pound dudes, right? Fragile like referees. But now it's like, you see managers that are potentially that can be wrestlers or have been wrestlers. Yeah, Paul Heyman, classic example. He's probably like the only manager
to be a wrestler.
He's big enough, yeah, but and here's the thing. He's taking so many bumps. It's crazy now, like and that's the thing. He's ECW's
so many bumps. He could open his own wrestling school.
Basically, yeah, and like that's the thing. That's what gets it, But if you see like for people like Freddie Blassie or things like that, very rarely they would get involved. Very rarely they would get involved because, of course, they don't want to hurt themselves. They don't want to get involved. It's like, leave the wrestling to the wrestlers, not to us.
But I think that's changed over there. They're too valuable to the company.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Manager
that's right. As a mouthpiece. Mm-hmm. Like I guess the only I think the only reason they would actually involve a manager was if they're doing like an angle, right? Like let's say, this wrestler,
the manager's gonna turn on the wrestler.
Yeah, the manager's gonna turn a wrestler, or
that's the most. If you think about it, that's the most common way that managers actually get involved when they're actually involved in the storyline. Like, you're basically gonna cause perfect example. Just say Brother Love was gonna turn on Taker.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to actually use his real name. Hey, Bruce. Your storyline is going to be you're going to turn on Taker and you're going to side with Yokozuna. Just a person that came off the top of my head for some reason.
That's right.
So you're going to basically cause Taker to lose his next 5 matches.
Yep.
And at the pay-per-view, you're going to hit him with the urn.
Yep.
And you're going to side with Yokozuna at SummerSlam.
That's right. I mean, well, when you're talking about the lines of someone that did turn, let's talk about a real-life example, Paul Bearer. Many times it's happened with Kane, it's happened with Undertaker, it's happened with a whole kind of things, But it's interesting. You see that's kind of a that dynamic. Like you see a person like Paul Bear.
Wow, that's a great fucking storyline. I should become a writer for WWE.
Well, we should. I think all of us should definitely. They're better writers anyway. But well, let's break it down like this. You tell me, what do you guys tell me then? Based on the different eras, so 80s, 90s, and now 2000s, probably in 2010s, I guess. What would be your best managers for each era?
I'll 80s. I would do probably Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Bobby the Brain Heenan, classic. Yeah.
Can we all go unanimous on that one?
Yeah, definitely. I'm down for that too.
Are we considering Miss Elizabeth a manager or a valet?
I'd say the same. Managers, valets, they're both the same. They count as manager, right?
Yeah.
I could, if we're doing valets as managers also, I'm going Miss Elizabeth over Freddie.
Well, let's put this into context. When you play, let's say a wrestling video game, right? When you pull up, a singles match, right? It says okay 1-on-1, right? And then it gives you the option of adding a manager, a single with manager, right?
Yeah.
Does it let you distinguish between manager as a female or male? It doesn't, right? It just tells you as a manager.
It says select manager.
Yeah, so I guess I think that's changed now. Probably in the 80s, probably when they had a video game in the 80s, that's probably what it was. It was like okay, that's a valet, that's a manager. But now it's like, it's all right. Manager. Yeah.
For the 80s, I'm going the original First Lady of Professional Wrestling. I'm going Miss Elizabeth.
Miss Elizabeth. Really? Nick, who else? Anybody else?
Sorry, I love Bobby the Brain, but Miss Elizabeth always has a place in my heart. I just love Miss Elizabeth. She was like, we have the good-looking women wrestlers now, but Miss Elizabeth, she was like, how Mr. Perfect says he's perfect?
Yep.
Miss Elizabeth is perfect.
That's right. Well, I mean, that's the thing, because
God rest her soul, rest in peace. She deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
That's right. And Nick, what about you?
Just when she was in there.
No, she's not. So I look this up every year just to make sure. I'm going to start a petition. Put Elizabeth in the Hall of Fame.
And yet Donald Trump is on there.
I know. And Snoop Dogg is in there.
Snoop Dogg is in there. Well, Mike Tyson is, even though he's a boxer.
Mike Tyson actually did something physical.
Well, at least it's not
he
like...
actually punched. He punched Shawn Michaels out.
Yeah. Well, at least it wasn't like, other Hall of Fames where they induct referees, That's like... Yeah, we're
not going to speak about that company.
No, we do not speak about. That's another thing we don't speak about here on the RSM Wrestling Podcast.
No, but we do speak about it, but it's poking fun at it.
Yeah, that's true. That is. But I mean, so what about the 90s? What do you guys think about the 90s? Like, if those women...
90s was basically a lot of female managers.
Yeah, I think it was just so many. I think that was the time where things were changing. It was like
everything got more. Well, it's funny because WCW. They kind of took the old school approach with managers. Like, you had Sonny Onu, you had...
Miss Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, yeah, she was NWO. You also had James Mitchell, who I think was under a different... James E. Vandenberg.
And ECW.
With Mortis and Rat. You had Colonel Robert E. Parker. You had...
wasn't
almost every other act had a manager.
NWO had a shitload of managers technically.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, yeah, but I don't know. It's
But I think I think that's right. I mean, if you would think about the NWO, a big faction, I think they just had this kind of thing where it was like rotating managers. It was either Dusty, it was either Rick Rude.
It all depends on the act.
Yeah, or it has to be like like a wrestler that just retired, or like an old wrestler. I think that's what it really came down to.
Or someone who was actually a manager.
Yeah, like they never had an actual manager that identified with them. I mean, you could make arguments that, it was this person, that person. But when you look at the history, based on the amount of members they had, the amount of, people they had in the group.
There was like 800 managers, right?
Yeah, so I think everybody had a turn to go be a manager. Probably Kevin Nash was a manager at one point. Scott Hall was a manager.
He probably was
a manager one time. it's hard to say. You know, I think yeah, it's like, you know, that's like a faction that was a lot of chaos. You know, it's like it's hard to say, but I mean, definitely, and that's the one thing.
Also,
like
I would.
Club.
Well, NWO came around before them. Technically,
No, I'm saying it's kind of like the Bullet Club. 800 people in the group.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
What was that I was gonna say? Yeah, because WCW. Actually, I would actually say Sherry had a better run in WCW when she was managing Harlem Heat as Sister Sherry.
And that was good actually.
That was phenomenal. Yeah, that was pretty good.
How can you forget Paulie Dangerously? His original run as a heel manager with the Dangerous Alliance.
Yeah,
all the stuff that kind of set the foundation for what he'd take on later on. You know,
developing new stars. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean that's the big thing. Yeah.
And then also in the Attitude Era, it got more sexualized, but also managers. But actually, it was even behind an angle because, believe me, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they have like an invitational tournament to win Terry's services that kind of set up the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian to tear the house down? No Mercy 1999.
That's right. Yeah.
Her management was basically the spark behind that whole storyline. That basically was the reason for the match. So, you know, though the ironic thing is nobody associates her with either of those acts because people came around later on that ended up stealing the thunder per se. But Terry was always like in the mist as like a manager, and then she was managing Kane for a while, and that was a thing. She was also with DX. She really hopped around. God.
Yeah. But then when you see like people like China, let's say, we talked about it before, Eddie Guerrero, I think with a faction, when it comes to like a faction, like you talk about who's the manager for DX. Was it Rick Rude? I wouldn't say Rick Rude.
The original one?
Have to say it. Yeah.
The original one was Rick Rude.
Rick Rude, but then like which one do you mostly identify with when you think of DX? China, right?
If I go with Terry.
With Terry, really?
She was more like the manager type. China was just like she
muscle.
started out as the bodyguard for just primarily for like Triple H, but she ended up just being like one of the guys essentially. So,
I think that's
like straight out manager. I would just go with like Terry because she wasn't.
Wait, was Trish around in the 90s as a manager for TNA?
Yeah, she managed Tess and Albert TNA. She got her start.
That's not a bad pick either. Because at that point, she wasn't doing anything. She was just managing.
And Lita started as S.A. Rios' manager, and then she got associated with the Hardys.
Yep.
Ivory was with Right to Censor.
What about
that was a horrible fucking group.
What about this?
I love the You can't knock them.
What about in the 1990s with the managers as I'm sorry, the McMahons. The McMahons as managers.
And then
for different wrestlers.
Every corner.
Yeah. You think about the Corporation, The Rock, Stone Cold,
McMahon in every corner.
Yeah, McMahon in every corner. That infamous WrestleMania, that Fatal 4-Way. Yeah, I remember that. What about Vince McMahon? Let's say when they were fighting against when you think about Vince McMahon, whether whoever he had fighting against whoever, he was a big menace because he was like that manager that was like, okay, he's the boss, but also he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Like, basically he can make the rules in his favor. He could do whatever the hell he wants. He could put you in a handicap match and be like, fuck it, I'm the boss. You gotta do what the fuck I gotta do. And then
it's a handicap match, but it's a no DQ handicap match, and I'm gonna have 15 people come down and beat your ass while we're at it.
Yeah. It would be sometimes
I'd also even classify Stephanie McMahon as a manager because she was more into it in like the Attitude Era, but literally like she was hopping around between Kurt Angle and Triple H, and they did like a love triangle storyline there. Even like Deborah, she was Stone Cold's manager, and then she was thrown in as the Rock's manager for their WrestleMania X7 build-up. So a lot of women managers. I can't. I'm struggling trying to think of any like male managers in the Attitude Era.
Yeah, I mean, well, we can probably say, when we talk about, what was I gonna say? Well, of course, we talked about Paul Bearer when it was with Kane and things like that. That was pretty
I
cool
think
too.
he was the only one, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think Paul Bearer and Rick Rude.
You had the Jackal from, I think, Disciples of the Prophet.
Oh.
Whatever the name of it was. Then you had that other one with
Hillbilly Jim.
With the tall guys and the tight shirts and the...
Well, I think this was also the era where there was also a lot of managers that were very, like, a lot of pairings, should I say, that were very questionable.
There was like Hillbilly Jim. He was the actual manager of the Godwins.
Yeah. But I mean,
remember that, Nick?
Yeah.
The what was it? The pig pen match.
Yeah, that got a little dirty.
But I mean, there's like a lot of different like odd pairings too. I mean, but when I talk about odd, it was like it was like a goof, like this is someone's manager. Like remember when they had that little incest storyline? The guy's name was but they had that going. That was really fucked up. I was like, whoa, that's crossing the line. Mae Young and Mark Henry. Who else?
Who are you talking about? The incest storyline.
You don't remember they had it wasn't incest storyline. It was like a
they were going for it. It was what, Paul Burchill, Katie Lee.
Well, that was one, but then
in
the 90s it was no, in the 90s there was it was like a son and a mother incest angle or something like that. I forgot what the guy's name was.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, I just thought of another wrestler, Marlena
and
although ironically
Goldust
became tired.
I mean, yeah, Marlena Goldust. What about WCW? Judy Bagwell and Buff Bagwell.
Deborah.
Oh my god.
Mama.
Yeah. It was like, come on, man. Like you had all these goofy, pairings, but yeah.
We gotta have a whole fucking show just on horrible managers.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, they're good managers and bad managers. But what about let me ask you guys then. So let's move on about the 2000s. 2010s. Like currently.
Melina.
Eminem, right?
Yeah. That's how she got her start.
Classic. I think that's right. She was she's someone I think benefited most out of everything.
Just a name that we just dropped a couple minutes ago. A relative.
Mm-hmm.
Brandy Rhodes.
Brandy Rhodes, right. Who else?
Maria Kanellis,
definitely. What about when Maria Kanellis when she was with Santino? What about that?
I was
Beth Phoenix with.
Beth Phoenix hands down, I think. But Beth Phoenix with Santino, that was cool.
That's like that strange bedfellow things.
Yeah, but it was just, I guess, the same kind of thing where it's like, they made this kind of angle where the man is the one that's the punier one,
is the woman.
Yeah, and it's like the roles reversed, I guess, But like or you saw like let's say Carmella and James Ellsworth, same. It was it took its tangents, but people kind of looked at it and went it's all right. Like I remember in the beginning where it was like, okay, James Ellsworth was paired with Carmella. Carmella was just using her. Yeah. Paul Ellering. Yeah, definitely. Who else? Well, we can't forget.
Oh yeah, we got Paul Ellering was in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s.
And 2000s, right. Well, we can't forget one more. What about what's his name? What about Paul Heyman? Of course, Paul Heyman. We said that many times, right?
Well, yeah, So once Lesnar made his comeback, and then he had the run with CM Punk and Curtis Axel, and I think he was
Cesaro
too for a time. Mm-hmm. So it was good to be a Paul Heyman guy there for a little while.
That's right.
Well, a lot of people also forget there's quite a list of Paul Heyman guys that he never even actually managed on screen.
Yep.
Big Show, Undertaker,
Medusa.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ring of Honor also had a good share of managers during that time. You had the late Larry Sweeney, who was
Maria Kanellis.
Yep.
Yeah, she was there too. But Larry Sweeney, who was like a throwback '80s manager, like he'd come out with the white blazer, talking on like the flip phone, like during his entrance, and his song was more. Mm-hmm. And then he had like the big shades, the curly hair, and basically he ran this group called Sweet and Sour Inc., which was kind of like Bullet Club, just except like
not 800 members.
It it would be like a bunch of no, it was just like 5 men. But Chris Hero was in it. I think Claudio was in it too. Castagnoli. Well, we know him as Cesaro now and Cassius Ohno. But basically, their thing was they had like a really fat guy named Rob Dempsey, and they would like torment the crap out of him, and it would just be like a long running joke. There was like a controversial angle though that happened.
It's like a bullying angle.
Yeah.
They did like a rape angle with like Alice in Danger. She was like one of the group's like first women wrestlers. So it's on YouTube somewhere. The controversial segment. I was actually there to see it in person. From like my 15 Ring of Honor shows I've been to at the Manhattan Center over its time. So, Ring of Honor is always.
Did you say you were there like once a month, twice a month sometimes?
Yeah, essentially. They would come in like August. They'd come back again in September, October, and then in December. They had Final Battle, but it wasn't quite like Final Battle as it is right now. But, it's still pretty damn close.
Wait, you mean the show that we just went to?
Yeah.
As a group?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
one
Which you could actually see that segment that we've done on ProWrestlingOpinion.com.
Yep.
Yes, you can.
Nice little cheap pop on that one.
Definitely. Good job. That's right. I mean, when we talk about ROH, well, with New Japan, think about what you got Okada with I forgot the other guy's name was, but he's same guy. Gato, yeah.
Gato,
classic.
I think his
classic
name is.
Yeah, but classic manager was cool. Every time you see him, it's cool. They always involve him in some kind of angle, and it works out perfectly. Whether you see somebody, like some foreigner getting involved or something into something that they're not, supposed to, it works perfectly. You look into other things as well. Of course, we talk about Maria Kanellis with we talk about Maria Kanellis, Kingdom. Who else?
Chris Martini.
Yeah.
We forgot two big '90s ones. ECW, Dawn Marie and Francine.
What about Dawn Marie and Jamie Noble? Was it Dawn Marie? Oh no, Nydia and Jamie Noble. Yeah. That
was disgusting.
Yeah, that was just man. But it was like, come on, man. Like it was interesting. But then of course he had in SmackDown 2003 where they had the Basham brothers and I forgot what the other
Shaniqua.
Yeah. That was weird. I was like, whoa. It's like where's this going?
That was like a whole dominatrix.
Yeah, dominatrix, all that other stuff.
Don't forget, you had people started out as like managers / bodyguards, and they became single stars. Probably the best example of this is Batista.
Mm-hmm.
He was Reverend Devon's, deacon.
Leviathan, yeah, and then he became the guy. I think, it was what you call it? He became his own individual star. We talk about Ric Flair with Evolution.
Yep, he was a big part of that.
Classic magnet, like heat magnet, all the time. He would always have to go ahead and piss people off.
Charlotte to an extent.
Charlotte, definitely.
For a while.
Definitely. Or we talk about Alexa Bliss, NXT, with Buddy Murphy.
She really branched out on her own too.
Now she's
wait, you mean the guy that sorry about that. A little botch right there. First time in a long time I've done that.
Funny, we're up to a bad start already. Oh god.
You mean the girl that Sal wasn't a fan of when she was in NXT?
Definitely, hands down, I wasn't a fan of that gimmick. Yeah.
That Richie basically said no, she has potential.
Yep.
Now look at her.
Yeah, once she became Blake and Murphy's heel manager, and they like made their heel run, and she dyed her hair red. Like that's the first time I'm looking at her. I'm like, oh, all right, well, this is something different.
I love the
promos, and she was just knocking them out of the park. The best thing for her, though, I think, was the brand split, because that really allowed her to like really come into her own and like really establish herself as like,
They actually asked her. Her reaction was a legit reaction. She didn't know she was getting called up.
Yeah.
So that was like a genuine, like, holy shit! I'm actually getting called up to the main roster.
She's one of the few people who actually like came from NXT.
And they actually televised it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now she's like this big star. So she's on her own now. She's like this big tangent,
Yeah, and she
crazy.
established herself on the main roster mostly too.
That's right. And I think that's in part by I guess certain characters outshining them. Like you see what are Blake and Buddy Murphy doing now?
One's just coming off an injury.
Yep.
Which is Blake.
Mm-hmm.
No, Murphy.
Yep.
And Blake is teaming with some random person.
Yeah, but I think that's what really comes down to. Like, either you have a role, you break out on your own, or you just sit there, and, you don't do nothing, and it ends up, you end up becoming released. Like you see all these different kind of pairings, it works perfectly in that favor,
Also, just remember, Lita was also involved with Edge in the Rated R Superstar gimmick.
Yep, that was pretty. I think, yeah. Would you say that was the catalyst for that Rated R gimmick to keep, to grow?
Well, yeah, that was the inspiration because that was the driving force behind the feud with Matt Hardy, and then Edge's original heel run, and then once that gimmick started to take off, he kind of just took it and ran with it, and we know how that one turned out.
That's right. Well, let me ask you guys this.
I love that whole. I love the whole Rated R gimmick.
Yeah,
we've got the biggest one of the 2000s era. Vicky freaking Guerrero.
Oh man, probably
yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes. I'd say
excuse
me. But she was I think one of those I hands down say this. If you would ask me, she'd be the best I think for 2000s era for me. That's I think at least because she was the person that would get probably the biggest reaction, the most hate, but at the same time you kind of understood it. You're like, all right, cool, and caught her real quick. So that was something there. But then after when they went towards that whole comedic aspect, I was like, it's all right, it's okay. But then after a while, you start to say all right, I guess this is where they're going with her, But it works. Well, before we end up, let me ask you guys this then: what would you guys classify as the greatest manager of all time?
Well,
would you guys
think?
Would you guys agree with this? No, but would you agree with this then?
Are you going by we want I'll take your question and I'll flip it a little bit.
Yep.
To make it an even better question for us to think about.
Yeah, sure.
You're a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your manager? And why?
Based on track record, I go Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Based off who he's managed and his resume, and basically, if you become a Paul Heyman guy, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get a good push. Sure, you have a select few who don't really make it, like Curtis Axel or Cesaro, but for every CM Punk and Brock Lesnar, and he also managed Big Show at the time too, but that was mainly because he turned on Lesnar. But most of the time when Heyman was with you, chances are you were getting over. But also keep in note that Heyman, while he was a really good mouthpiece, the act that he was with, they were already good on their own. He just kind of just took what they had and enhanced it. And that's the essence of a really great wrestling manager. You emphasize the strengths of your protege, and you kind of mask the weaknesses, but you still do just enough where you're not really thinking about the weaknesses per se. You're just saying, oh shoot, they're with them, all right, they're legit. That's that they're gonna really, they're really gonna be a force. I'd even go like Ms. Maurice, like nowadays. Tell me that's not a power duo.
That is, yeah.
There really is.
That is right. But I mean,
that's right.
Yeah. Well, how about this? I mean, for me, definitely, I was thinking definitely Paul Heyman. Like Paul Heyman, I think he's probably. Well, the argument is this: Paul Heyman is probably one of the greatest managers of all time since probably Freddie Blassie and Bobby the Brain Heenan. What would you guys say to that effect?
I agree.
Do you feel like there's anything stopping him? Do you feel like he needs to do more to be able to get to that level, or do you feel like he's already reached it, or you feel like there's something limiting him?
Who?
Do you think
Paul Heyman.
what Sal's basically asking is, has Paul Heyman surpassed Bobby the Brain and Freddie Blassie as a greatest manager of all time?
I would say yes, only just based off because Heyman's had a lot more years and experience to work with. Not to mention,
I think he's had more people also.
But he's seen what Heenan did and just kind of took his own spin on it, but like still paid homage to him. Especially if you look like during his.
And like Nick also said, look at his track record. There has been many failures.
But sure, right. But do you guys feel like there's anything limiting him from being one of the best of all time? Like,
no, I think he's already up there.
What do you feel like?
If you Google top 5 wrestling managers of all time, he's on every list.
That's right. Yeah.
It's not like I looked at it, but I just happen to know.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I feel like, if you were to put him up with anybody else at this point, it's just not going to work, But like,
there might be some exceptions that you can still work with.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. But, I mean, if you look at like we talk about, I think there's many different pairings. Like, you see Finn Balor, Samoa Joe probably.
I would love, a lot of people who's already said this, I would love to see Heyman go with Joe.
Or what about AJ Styles? That'd be cool too. But AJ Styles maybe, or
AJ doesn't need a manager.
Yeah, but I think Joe, because there was a connection. CM Punk, Joe have a relationship. They're cool with one another. Same kind of thing.
Yeah, Joe could cut a promo. But I personally think Paul could do the talking for him.
That's right. I mean, Nick, I don't know. You haven't seen, I think, that you don't have to that segment yet, but there's a segment, I think, specifically, there's a segment where, what'd you call it? Paul Heyman and Joe had an interaction. That was very interesting to see. And the way that kind of gelled perfectly together. Because you saw the emotion coming out of Joe. It kind of felt like Paul Heyman was in Joe's ear telling him, maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do that. This is how we should work that out. And they worked perfectly, But,
It's, well, here's the thing. I don't think Joe needs a mouthpiece per se because he's intimidating as hell on his own. If they thought Joe needed a manager, they would have put one with them a long time ago.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I think if he came out in the 80s, he probably would have had a manager talking for him. But he really was one of the few to really bust out on his own. So I would just keep running with it. I don't think he really.
The only time Joe really had a manager
was Taz, right?
Is when he was in a group, I think.
Yeah, it was, I think, with Taz, I think, that wasn't he?
He was with Taz?
Yeah, with Taz. But wasn't he in TNA? He was with Taz, I think.
They did some different things. I can't even keep track.
Yeah, it's I think this was, think back to Fortune. Fortune versus, that little faction they had. Immortal, yeah. And I think Joe, I think it was either Joe joining Immortal or something, or he was joining Fortune, and I guess that's where it all began from there. But I think that's when it was a whole thing. It was probably a while back. I'd say that's probably exactly 10 years ago. That's crazy. But yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. But that's one, yeah. But right off the bat, before we go, your pick of greatest manager of all time, who would it be?
Paul
Heyman? What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I would do Paul Heyman just based on his track record and success story and his clients.
Paul Heyman, definitely. I mean, we probably agreed. We probably said that, managers, I guess, we say that all the time. Managers, I guess, are the extensions of a character.
Managers make the superstar.
Managers make the superstar. They make the character. They develop the character, and they help, enrich the storyline. So that's one thing there too. They play a vital role in trying to keep on, I guess, diversifying a storyline, making it different, change the picture, these kind of things. And I guess that's with the presentation, with what's going on, the segments, promos, everything. So hands down, we could probably say managers are probably an essential role to, I guess, what a professional wrestler is,
Yep.
But yeah. Have we left anything else? I think we're all good right there, right? I mean, what about we talk about TNA, we talk about New Japan, we talk about ROH.
Talk about WWE.
Yeah, we talk about WWE in depth. I guess we talk about all managers, So definitely. So this is the RSN Wrestling Podcast. This is, I guess,
there's one thing that we forgot to do.
Really, what's that?
Plug the Twitter, the Instagram.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The
Facebook, the YouTube,
the PWO.
The PWO.
The PWO, yes.
And possibly the new app that we might be using in the future.
Yep. Well, I mean, I guess, yeah. So this is the Awesome Wrestling Podcast. Of course, you can check us out on YouTube. You can check us out on PWO, Wrestling Opinion. But also, you can check us out on our other outlets that we got there also. As Rich said, you can check us out at Awesome Podcast on Twitter. You can also check us out on Instagram. We're also on Instagram there. And also, from there, that's pretty much us right there. So we having some other podcasts coming up soon. The Truth's also coming up and other stuff as well. And from there, we'll see you guys out. This is the Mastermind.
This is the big guy.
And we got Nick, the knight that runs the site of PWO.
Nick Lopez.
Later.
Nick Lopez.
Nick Lopez. We'll see you guys out.
See you guys.
Later.